Brereton Díaz is a blade. Again, one of the worst kept transfer rumours in transfer rumour history since all the others that were really badly kept. How do you feel about BBD being back at beautiful downtown Bramall Lane?
Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole. Ole, ole, ole.
How do you feel about BBD rejoining Sheffield United? A player that I thought did really well for us in the Premier League. He'd already shown what he can do at that higher level. And I'm so pleased that we've got a player back that can offer us so much more, because we know that he's another who can play out wide or down the middle. At the moment, Sheffield United are playing a system that I think suits Ben Brereton Díaz perfectly. Because I don't know if you've heard me say this, because I've been saying it for quite a long time, 𝗍𝗲𝗲 on the left is not my fancy. It's not my favourite. I think he's done really well this season, but I think we can get even more from him at championship level through the middle. It throws up a few headaches if you play Ben Brereton Díaz on the left, which I like. I think that is his best position, cutting inside. We saw him do that so successfully and memorably in games in the very top flight. I think in the championship level, once he gets his confidence back, which has been hit at Southampton, we could have a very, very exciting player on our hands. It throws up the question, as I mentioned, that where do you play certain players? Who gets dropped? Someone is going to have to miss out. There will be further reinforcements that we've already been linked with that will make that midfield either quite congested or the perfect balance. And I do feel like when 𝗬𝗏 𝗵𝗿 is back, we've got to get it right. Are we now looking at a stage where you have 𝗬𝗏𝗴 on the bench and Campbell starting as a striker? Because Campbell, let's not forget, can play out wide as well and actually can play on that left-hand side. And we've already seen that Ben Brereton Díaz can do it through the middle. So maybe you have 𝗬𝗏 𝗵𝗿 on the left, Ben Brereton Díaz in the middle. Maybe you have Ben Brereton Díaz on the left, Campbell through the middle, Campbell out wide. I don't know. Andre Brooks is giving us those big question marks on that right-hand side. Is he now the starter? Because he's arguably proven himself, but that's only in recent games. Jesús 𝗏𝗏𝗏, big question mark there. There's been talk about Palace recalling him due to his injury, and then you'd maybe need another option in that position. But it is an exciting time to be a blade. I think we're doing well. You know, you take the points deduction into account. We already know what Ben Brereton Díaz can do, and he comes into a side that I think is very, very good. What is your favourite position for Ben Brereton Díaz? If you want the key stats, the info that, let's be honest, I've now given out 3 times on different videos, but maybe this is the first one you're watching about Ben Brereton Díaz. He's 6'1". He did score 6 in 16 for Sheffield United in the Premier League. Now, there is an area that is a concern. It is his injuries. I'm not too worried. When you look at his past injuries, he's not had too many. There was an ankle issue. There was ankle ligament tear a couple of years ago, and we do know those can be hard to overcome. There's been concerns over his knee, but he has that versatility, and if he can stay fit, you've got that option from left wing. You've got that option at centre forward. In his career, he's also played on the right. 43 times he's played as a right winger, scoring 3 and creating 4. So he's a goal threat that can play on the wing. When you see him on that left, though, he's done extremely well. It's 26 goals that he's scored from that left-hand position and 33 in the centre-forward position. Now, that's in 126 games as a centre-forward. And then 76 plus 11. Let's do some quick maths. That's the 26. So I've included left wing and left midfield in those. And when you look at him as well, in the Championship, very, very exciting. Back in that 21-22 season for Blackburn Rovers, that is a Ben Brereton Díaz that's at full flow, full confidence. 37 games, 22 goals. The season after, 43 games, 14 goals. It wasn't like that at Forest, and I don't really know why, but a couple of goal-laden seasons at Ewood Park. And, you know, for a player like him, I do believe he is a confidence-based player. Tony Mowbray described him as a beast and got the very best out of him. I think we know Chris Wilder already getting the best out of him. A similarly experienced face in 𝗬𝗏 𝗵𝗿, in 𝗬𝗏𝗴, who have 11 goals between them. And we're talking again about a player who was a success story in the Premier League. We know that Ben is coming to a fan base that love him, that will support him. Now, he hasn't had that. And in fact, reading some of the comments that Saints fans have said about him on social media, you know, if he's been getting that and overhearing that and reading about that, and some of that's transmuted itself from the stands, that's bound to be very, very difficult and hard to motivate yourself in what is already a very, very difficult Premier League. So I think he'll come here knowing he's got the backing, the support, and the love of the beautiful downtown Bramall Lane faithful. I think he's going to come into a side that, unlike Southampton, has confidence, is doing well, and will continue to do well when more reinforcements come in. So this, for me, works, and it works on a number of levels because it gives us options at the top of the pitch, which we haven't had. Ryan Oweh, I think we can all agree, looks very, very good, but he is still raw, and he still needs those loans. And Chris Wilder said as much. If an ideal situation were to be had and we weren't having all these injuries, and we really have, 8 players, if you want to include some like Sashdev, who isn't necessarily a first teamer, but we've had a lot of injuries. And so Ryan Oweh has had to remain at the club when maybe a loan would have been more beneficial because he needs minutes to grow and continue to push on. I mean, he's a big lad, he's got strength, but perhaps the Championship isn't the place to cut his teeth. Maybe League One or League Two, score a hatful of goals, come back full of confidence. Now, we're getting a Brereton Díaz, as I've mentioned, that isn't full of confidence. It has been a disaster. 10 league games for Southampton, no goals, but also those performances as well. 13 in total, because he did also play 3 in the League Cup. They've just not been up there. But we saw before Villarreal, the same thing happened there. He played 20 games for Villarreal and didn't manage to score in La Liga. Then came to Sheffield United and it all clicked. So we're looking at a very similar situation to when he joined us before. We know about that goal threat. We know he's a team player. And I really think bringing in team players at this stage of the season is going to be so, so important. There's another argument to say that you can change formation maybe before. So we change formation from the off or in game and go a proper 2 up top. 𝗤𝗄𝗎 and Brereton Díaz. We go Tyrese Campbell, Brereton Díaz. We saw Brereton Díaz with another player we've been linked with, although it sounds like Las Palmas don't want to release him, Oli McBurney. Now, those two really had a good partnership. At Premier League level, yeah, good. I think at Championship level, potentially could be great, but we don't always want to go backwards, and many people have let their feelings known about whether a return for Oli McBurney would necessarily be a good thing. Arguably on loan to get us over the final hurdle, it could be seen as like a Hansen Medine kind of signing, and you don't necessarily need to bring Oli McBurney in permanently after that. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So we focus our attention on Brereton Díaz, a Chilean who is loved. If he's loved so much by Chile, we can also show him that at Bramall Lane again. I mean, for Chile, 35 appearances and 7 goals. When you're playing at that level against the kind of teams that Chile will be playing against regularly, like Argentina, which, by the way, he's also scored against. It just shows he can really take it to the next level. In fact, Oli McBurney was tweeting about how good, he might have been Instagram, who remembers, but how good he is. And that's because Oli McBurney's saying that because he'll have seen him on the training ground. This guy has been described by players that have played with him as a baller with tremendous technique. If we can keep him away from that dreaded physio room, because we've just had too many injuries this season, and we can get him firing with that confidence that we know will come from the Bramall Lane faithful, this will be a crucial signing, could be a key signing. Now, if he doesn't necessarily work out, you could argue, okay, that'd be a huge shame for the lad, for Sheffield United, with January transfers historically that haven't always worked, but we are doing well as it is. So we're just going to add to an already good complement of players and give ourselves more options to change positions for certain players like Gus Harmer, bring him into the middle. It throws up a question about Callum O'Hare. Callum O'Hare, though, can also play out wide. So it just gives Chris Wilder a few more areas. And also for oppositions, it gives them a lot more to think about. Who's going to be playing where? And you can even change it each game and in-game. We saw Callum O'Hare play on the right with Brewster as a 10 previously. Whether that worked or not, it still kept oppositions guessing. And it just gives you that option again. I like this. I'm delighted Brereton Díaz is back at Bramall Lane. And I think this time he really will be a huge success. And then next season, we're hopefully in the Premier League. And we've already seen that he can score goals at that level. What I really want to know is what you think about this and where you think he will fit in. Thank you very much for watching or listening if you subscribe to our podcast.